future series, I will unveil my playoff format that will be preceded by my scheduling fix. College football scheduling needs to be fixed both in conference and out of conference to create scheduling equity. If we're going to evaluate these teams, we have to do it based on scheduling equity. So we've addressed that in the past. I will clean off those videos. I will reproduce them, and they will be out there for your pleasure. So the scheduling needs to come hand in hand with the playoff format, and so we're going to unveil that in the next couple months. Before we do that, we're going through each season during the college football playoff era, and we gave you what a 8-team playoff would look like under a certain system. We gave you 2 models. Here we're giving you 2 models for a 16-team playoff. I love it. Not from the college football playoff rankings, because, of course, a committee with 13 people deciding things doesn't make any sense. But we are presenting what it would look like with the playoff selection committee rankings, but also with a legitimate format. So the format here, as explained in the previous video of 2020, this is 2019, is that we go with all the conference champions, all 10 conference champions, 6 wild cards. So think about it. The top 11 teams in the country, the best 11 teams will be in this tournament. There's no question about that, because you got the 5 Power 5 champions, then you got 6 wild cards that are going to be the best of the best, best of the rest. And then who knows about the Conference USA champion, the Sun Belt champion? They might be the 25th best team, the 35th best team. That's fine. But they earned the spot. And that's one thing we'll address with our playoff format, is what to do with the group of 5, because they either need to be formally included or completely excluded. We're in between. It's vague. It's haphazard. Nobody knows what's going on. Nobody knows. We're patronizing them. We're teasing them. We're saying they're included. They're considered. They're really not. A number of undefeated teams in the group of 5 since this playoff has been established, or really it's an invitational, it's not a playoff, has been established, have not been included. So they're not included. All right, this is 2019. This is a 16-team playoff according to the conference champions and then the wild cards, and I'll explain why I chose certain wild cards over others. And of course, if there was a wild card system, there would have to be, again, no selection committee. You choose the wild cards based on a system that makes sense. Your 116 game in 2019 would have been LSU against Miami of Ohio. Why? Well, they won the MAC championship. The 8-9 game, Utah, who lost the Pac-12 championship game against Bama, who went 10-2, who I thought was the 4th best team in the country, but of course they had to miss the playoff. They had lost 2 games. Oklahoma and Boise State as the 4-13 game. So that's Big 12 champion against Mountain West champion. Then we got a 5-12 game, Oregon-Memphis. Memphis won the American. Oregon won the Pac-12. You got a 2-15 game between Ohio State and FAU. They actually played the first week of the season. The Buckeyes won by 24. You got a 7-10 game. Okay, this is intriguing. Baylor lost the Big 12 championship. Wisconsin lost the Big 10 championship game. They will meet as 7-10 seeds. Clemson, Appalachian State, you got a couple conference champions there. And then in the 6-11 game, Georgia, Minnesota. I'll explain why I selected Georgia and Minnesota, both 10-2. Actually, the Bulldogs were 11-2 after losing the SEC title game against LSU. Okay, the teams that just missed the cut: Florida, Notre Dame, and Penn State, 10-2. The reason I took Georgia and Minnesota, okay, I wanted to split the difference between the 2 conferences. I wasn't going to create some metric and spend like 18 hours, but that's what should be done. But I made the simple decision that I'm going to take 1 out of the Big 10, and I'm going to take 1 out of the SEC. Georgia beat Florida head-to-head. Minnesota beat Penn State head-to-head. There you go. Easy enough. Determined on the field. Also keep in mind, I did not penalize Wisconsin. They've got the worst record of a wildcard team in here at 10-3. So I did not penalize Wisconsin for going to a conference championship game and losing to arguably the number 1 team in the country. All right, let's go to the playoff rankings. And again, I don't put much credibility in this. I think the people are qualified. They're good. They make decent selections, but this is not any type of system. It's just a poll. It's a 13-person poll, and they come out with this. But it's interesting to see what they would have selected had the playoff been expanded to 16 teams. This would be their playoff. You wonder if this would have been their playoff, though. You know what I mean? Had they can rank whatever they want from 5 to 25 for certain reasons, versus if they knew this is the 16 that are going to make the playoffs, so the 16 matter, and then number 17 doesn't matter as much, and then through the rest of the rankings, you wonder if they would have made different decisions. All right, they're 116 games, LSU and Iowa. Interesting matchup for in 116. Their 8-9 matchup is Wisconsin and Florida. Their 4-13 is Oklahoma-Alabama. Georgia-Auburn, rematch right there, 5-12 game. Ohio State-Notre Dame is the 2-15 game. 7-10 games, Baylor-Penn State. These are all great matchups. I love them all. Not that they would all be great games, but from a brand standpoint, they're interesting to look at. Clemson and Michigan. Again, a ton of teams. The games that we would have, the teams that we would have on a field together that we never see. Wisconsin, Florida, Baylor, Penn State, Clemson, Michigan. That's great stuff. LSU, Iowa. They did play in a bowl game about 5 years ago, and then about 15 years ago. Nick Saban's last game at LSU was against Iowa. Oregon and Utah. That looks familiar. They played in the Pac-12 championship game in 2019. Well, you may want to rework the seedings, but I just took the rankings straight 1 through 16 rip from the College Football Playoff Selection Committee. Oregon and Utah, the 6-11 game. Your thoughts on 2019, how it should have played out, what it could have looked like. Again, 18 playoff, 16-team playoff. Again, these are two models here. I'm going to unveil my playoff format, my scheduling fixed in the next several weeks right here at Mark Rogers TV, the voice of college football. Best discussion, debate, and analysis. Do we hit that mark every day? No, we don't. But we get up the next morning. That's what we aim to do. We'll see you next time.